Street takeovers are one of the biggest recent developments in car culture. And in my opinion, it is one of the worst things to ever happen to car culture. Like, ever. Now, I'm sure that from that opening to this video, it's pretty clear where I stand on street takeovers, but if you are a person who typically attends street takeovers or supports them, keep watching this video, watch to the end and see what I have to say, and in the end, if you don't agree with me or you don't think anything I've said is valid in your opinion, that's fine, but maybe I can change your mind. So I say that street takeovers are a fairly recent phenomenon, but honestly, street takeovers in one form or another have actually been around the car scene for a long time, and it really started in the southern states, especially focused around the Atlanta, Georgia area and other nearby areas. In the hip-hop scene, now I'm sure it's pretty clear that I'm not an expert on the history of takeovers, that's just my understanding, but honestly, the exact history of them is not really the main point because they persist on to nowadays, and nowadays, it doesn't really matter where they are. They happen all the time at like random, super busy intersections in like the middle of rush hour traffic. And nowadays they normally take the form of people blocking lanes of traffic so that in an intersection, certain individuals can do donuts and burnouts and stuff like that in the middle of town. So we're going to discuss a few points of why people often will justify their attending or supporting of street takeovers, and we're going to see if those points really make sense in the grand scheme of things. And the number one point that I hear all the time is, well, I can't afford to go to track days. Track days are too expensive. Well, I want to say first of all that, hey, I can relate to this to an extent because honestly, I'm not a person that has a lot of excess money. And I don't really have money to go to track days all the time or something like that. Honestly, just the car payment on my Mustang already wipes out a lot of my income. So I can understand the struggle with that and the desire to go to track days and stuff like that, maybe not being able to afford it. However, I do feel like this is an issue that is vastly blown out of proportion because I see a lot of people talking about like, I can't afford $1,000 for one day of driving. Not every track day is that expensive. In fact, it's pretty rare that track days are. If there's something like that, it's normally a pretty limited event with basically constant seat time. If you just want to go to a track day with several sessions throughout the day where you can drive, I mean, it can literally cost in the range of like as low as $50 to like a few $100s. And there's plenty of examples of basically all day driving at a lot of different tracks for like $100. Honestly, that's not that bad. I get that that will add up certainly and that these events are not always available, but if this is a hobby that you really enjoy and that you have the desire to hoon on your car that much, then invest in it. You can spend a little bit of money in your hobby if it's something that you really enjoy. And off of this same sort of point is the next one, which is, I don't have a track that's close to me. Well, sorry. Life isn't always fair. Some people live super duper close to multiple different tracks, other people don't. I don't personally live super crazy close to any actual like road course tracks. I live within, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of a few, but it's not like I can just, you know, pop over 30 minutes away and get on a racetrack super duper easily. I do live relatively close to a drag strip, but as far as an actual dedicated road course, there's not that many options that close to me either. And that does suck. But again, if this is a hobby that you really care about, you can invest a little bit of extra time into getting yourself on the track if it's something that you actually want to do. And also keep in mind that although there might not be a road course super duper close to you, things like drag strips or events that set up things like autocross or certain events will have like a burnout pit or something like that that's set up if that's all you want to do, since that's about all that people really do at takeovers anyway, then those options are normally pretty easy to find really close to you. No, you might not have a dedicated racetrack, but it's pretty unlikely that you don't have any options to drive your car competitively or aggressively somewhat near you. And ultimately, the main problem that I have behind both of these points is, well, suck it up. I know that might come across harsh, but just because you don't think that you can afford going to a track day or you don't have one close to you doesn't mean that you can just do whatever you want. Make no mistake, everything about street takeovers is incredibly illegal. You can't be upset that you can't afford a Porsche 911 GT3 and then just steal one as justification for that. You can't be upset that you don't have a shooting range near you and then just shoot up random people's houses. I know that those are extreme examples, but it's the same way of thinking. I'm sorry if you don't have that much money to easily be able to go to track days often. I get that. I'm in the same boat, and I'm sorry if you don't have a track that's super duper close to you. But unfortunately, that's just the reality. You don't get to bend the world to your will just because of those inconveniences. And another common, essentially, defense that I will see of street takeovers is, well, what's the difference between a street takeover and something like a legal burnout or donut pit at an actual show or car event? Because obviously a huge issue with takeovers is the amount of people that get hurt. They get injured, and people have even died. And some people that attend street takeovers will argue, what's the difference between that and a legal burnout pit? People get hurt at legal burnout pits too. That happens maybe just as often percentage-wise as it does at street takeovers. And although I think that that is still a problem with burnout pits, it has to be noted that people that are standing around a burnout pit at a show know the danger that they are putting themselves in. They're likely not attending that car event on accident. They're there to see cars, and if they're choosing to stand around the burnout pit, they're choosing to be nearby cars that are doing potentially dangerous things. They have made that decision. But unfortunately, a lot of the people that get injured at street takeovers are not people that are actually there to watch the street takeover. Oftentimes, it's just innocent bystanders or pedestrians that were trying to cross the road and happened to get there at the wrong time. Something along those lines.
I do think that it's important to mention, because I forgot to mention this in the recording of this video, but the vast majority of people that are injured at street takeovers are typically attendees of the street takeover. However, the number of people that are injured that are literally innocent bystanders that just happen to be there at the wrong time is not zero, and that is still a problem.
Those are people that had no idea of the danger that they were about to be in, and because somebody decided that the law doesn't apply to them and they wanted to do whatever they wanted, that person is injured. And there's even been some cases of people dying at street takeovers. That is no way around it, completely unacceptable. So what's the solution for the people that maybe can't afford to go to the track hardly ever? Because I do understand that sometimes you're going to want to hoon on your car in daily driving or something like that. I totally get it, but it's time and place that you choose to do so. If you can't afford to go to the track, or you don't have a track anywhere nearby you, I do understand there are places in this country or any other country where street takeovers might be a potential problem, but I think this is mostly a United States thing. It's a very United States thing. Not everywhere in the country is going to have a track very close to them. There is a limited amount of tracks in the country. I get that. And I get not everyone can travel to a track to do a track day very often. So what do you do if you want to hoon on your car and you can't make it to dedicated events for things like that? Well, it's simple. Be smart about when and especially where you choose to do so. I don't have an issue with someone doing a quick pull with their car as they merge onto the interstate or something like that. And I certainly don't have an issue with people that go find a secluded place that's not nearby anyone out like on some back roads in the country and go do burnouts or whatever out there. I understand that that's still not legal, but it's not hurting anyone. In fact, I've literally been told by a police officer when I was pulled over for doing a little bit of a fishtail at the edge of a town. He literally told me, hey man, if you're gonna go do stuff like that, do it out on back roads. I don't have a problem with that, but don't do it around town. And he was right. If your justification behind street takeovers is really that you just want a place to hoon on your car and have fun, well, guess what? There's empty parking lots when no one's around in the middle of the night. There's back roads that are off in the middle of nowhere that hardly ever have any traffic on them. There's plenty of places that you can find to have fun with your car, even if it's not always on the track. In the middle of an intersection or in the middle of a town in general, surrounded by a bunch of other traffic and pedestrians, is unsafe and incredibly selfish. Those people's lives, their lives, are being put in danger because you either don't want to or can't afford going to the track. In what world is that okay? That would not be justified in so many other situations. And guess what? It's not justifiable in the case of street takeovers either. There's nothing cool about showing off to people by cranking your steering wheel until it hits the lock and slamming down the throttle. Literally anyone can do that, and you can do it in a way that doesn't endanger other people. And it has to be mentioned that, unfortunately at this point, there's been plenty of examples of people that have either been driving or even just bystanding at street takeovers who have been arrested and literally thrown into prison. You are not any different than any of those people. That could just as easily happen to you. And if you think that going to a track day is expensive, do you know what's really expensive? A lawsuit. And if you think that it's exhausting to have to travel to a track in order to drive your car aggressively, do you know what's really exhausting? Having the fact that you injured or killed someone weighing on your mind. I typically make pretty lighthearted content, and I typically include a lot of random dumb humor throughout my videos, but honestly, in my opinion, this is a big issue, okay? I'm a car guy just like probably the vast majority of you are who attend or enjoy street takeovers in one way or another. I get it. I love cars. I love driving my car hard. If I didn't, there'd be no point in me owning a car like this. But please, do it responsibly. And please, do it in a way who the only person who you're endangering is yourself. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you really enjoyed it, consider hitting the like button as well as ringing that notification bell, and I will see you guys all in the next video.